The email arrived. My heart pounded. I had passed. The Viva, that dreaded academic ritual, was over. Relief washed over me. It felt like sunshine after a long storm. The feedback was quick. It was mostly positive. My examiners were kind. They saw the effort. They appreciated the work. This was a moment of pure joy. I wanted to shout from the rooftops. I had done it. I had climbed a huge mountain. The summit felt good, so very good. Then came the but. A small word, a gentle nudge, amendments required. My supervisors had prepared me. This was common. Very few sail through without any changes. They said the amendments were minor. Just a few tweaks here and there. Nothing to worry about, they assured me. So the initial glow remained. It was just a small task. A final polish. I told myself I would get to them quickly. I imagined finishing them in a week, maybe 2 at the most. I made a plan, a neat little schedule. I would dedicate a few hours each day. I would be disciplined. I would be focused. The end was so close. I could almost taste the final submission, the feeling of complete freedom. It seemed so straightforward, so manageable. I celebrated my pass. I allowed myself to bask in the achievement. The amendments felt like a tiny footnote at the end of a very long, very challenging chapter. I was still riding high on the wave of success. But life has its own plans. It rarely consults our neat little schedules. That initial burst of energy, that clear path I envisioned, started to cloud over. The quick job began to feel less quick. The simple task started to seem more complex. Other things started to demand my attention. The vibrant, immediate glow of passing began to fade a little. The gentle nudge of the amendments started to feel a bit more like a persistent tap on the shoulder, one I was slowly starting to ignore. Life, as it often does, decided to throw a few curveballs. A new job opportunity emerged. It was exciting, it was demanding. It required all my focus. Then came a house move, packing boxes, unpacking boxes, endless logistics, finding new routines, settling into a new space. These were big changes, good changes mostly, but they were also energy-consuming. They took up so much mental space. The thesis amendments? They got pushed to a mental later pile, a pile that was growing larger. The stress began to creep in, not just from the new job or the move, but from the unfinished thesis. It was a quiet hum of anxiety in the background, always there. The amendments were no longer a small task. They felt like a heavy weight, a weight I was dragging along with me. Procrastination became my companion. I would think about the amendments, then I would find something else, anything else to do. The guilt was a heavy blanket. It made everything feel harder. Every time I thought about opening that document, a wave of resistance washed over me. It felt like standing at the bottom of another mountain, one I had already climbed. Why was this small part so hard? The logical part of my brain knew what to do, but the emotional part, the tired part, the overwhelmed part just wanted to hide. The chaos of daily life provided the perfect hiding place. There was always something more urgent, something that needed immediate attention. The amendments became a symbol of something I hadn't quite finished, something I hadn't quite conquered. The initial excitement of passing felt like a distant memory. Now there was just this lingering task, this shadow that followed me. It made me question myself. If I could write a whole thesis, why couldn't I just fix these few things? The weight of later was becoming heavier than the actual work itself. It was a classic case of the fear being bigger than the thing itself. That thesis, those pending amendments, lived in my head rent-free. It was a constant, low hum, a background noise to my daily life. Even when I was laughing with friends, even when I was focused on my new job, even when I was trying to relax, a little voice would whisper, "You still haven't finished." It was exhausting, this unseen weight, this mental load. It was always there, a reminder of an open loop, a task not yet complete. This persistent stress colored everything. It was like wearing slightly smudged glasses. The world wasn't quite as clear. Joy wasn't quite as pure. Sleep wasn't quite as restful. I found myself avoiding conversations about academic work. I didn't want to explain why it wasn't done yet. The shame of it. The feeling of not being quite good enough until it was officially, completely, undeniably finished. It was a heavy burden to carry around, day in and day out. Finding the right mental space felt impossible. My mind was a whirlwind of new responsibilities, new routines, new challenges. Where was the quiet corner for academic thought? Where was the focused energy for careful editing? It felt like trying to thread a needle on a roller coaster. Every time I tried to sit down with it, my brain would scatter. The words on the page seemed to swim. The task felt monumental. It was hard to admit, even to myself, how much this was affecting me. The fear of opening the document was real. It wasn't just about the work itself, it was about facing my own procrastination. It was about confronting the possibility that maybe the amendments were harder than I thought. Or worse, that I wasn't capable of doing them to the required standard. This fear kept the document closed. It kept the weight firmly on my shoulders. The thesis monster, fed by my avoidance, grew larger in my imagination each day that passed. One day, something shifted. Maybe it was sheer exhaustion from carrying the weight. Maybe it was a moment of clarity. I realized I couldn't live with this shadow any longer. I had to face the pages. I had to reclaim my story. The fear was there. It was big. But the desire for freedom, for peace of mind, finally became bigger. I decided that imperfect action was better than perfect inaction. It was time to be brave, even if I was scared. I took small steps, tiny steps. I told a trusted friend about my struggle. Just saying it out loud helped. Then I scheduled time, real dedicated time, no distractions. I broke the amendments down into the smallest possible tasks, one comment at a time, one paragraph at a time. Slowly, painstakingly, I began to work. Some days were hard, some days the words wouldn't come, but I kept showing up. I kept trying, I was gentle with myself. And then it was done, the final version uploaded, the email sent. A wave of relief, so profound, washed over me. It was like setting down a heavy backpack I hadn't realized I was carrying for so long. The world looked brighter. Colors seemed more vibrant. There was a lightness in my step. The freedom was intoxicating. The thesis monster, which had seemed so formidable, had shrunk. It was just a document after all, a document I had conquered. Looking back, the journey was about so much more than just amendments. It was about facing fear. It was about understanding my own patterns of avoidance. It was about the courage to show up when I wanted to hide. It taught me about self-compassion. It taught me about perseverance. And now? Now that the weight is lifted, there's a quiet excitement, a little spark. Perhaps, just perhaps, there might be more academic adventures in the future. This time, I'll know I can face whatever monsters come my way.